Hello YouTube, it's Boards Dude and I'm back with part 2 of the TFYTC collection showcase. And if you're like me, you're just nosy to see what people collect and how they display them. And hopefully my voice sounds a bit better than the first part and it doesn't sound like I'm treading water because I'm using a different method to record. But we'll see how this pans out. Starting off with TFYTC. Yes, Bisto, the long-serving member of the Transformers community. Very first picture, we can see a little shrine to Grimlock on the top shelf, and on the second shelf there we've got some Star Wars, possibly Black Series figures, as well as some Legends Transformers, and of course the third shelf as well follows suit with more Legends Transformers. And of course we can see Bisto does a fair whack of reading there in the background, and I do love that brickwork as well in the picture. Coming on to part 2, or the second picture I should say, from Bisto, we have the Mastermind Creations version of Skylynx, and boy does it look superb, scaling well with the Mech Fan Toys version of the Dinobots. Kind of reminds me of the Cult of the Primitives episode. Very cool looking on display there as a group. And we get some more Legends figures from Bisto here, looking at the chibi styled Triptychon, one of the ones that I always really looked to get but I always missed out on, as well as some Iron Factory Bruticus action, as well with other little Iron Factory figures. I believe a nice little cool display showcasing off some of these fantastically designed Decepticons in Legends form. Speaking of Decepticons and evil bad guys, Bisto has dedicated a shelf to the evil leaders, Cykill from the GoBots in his Action Robo toy form. This is the deluxe version of the Action Robo Cykill mold. The toy version of MP Megatron, we have a little alt mode of Cykill. I don't know if that's the X-Transbots version, KFC version, or just another copy of the Action Robo figure. I really can't remember what looks like in alt mode. And then of course we've got the wee Mega Bloks Skeletor just to round it off. And lastly, from Bisto, we have an MP Beast Wars display with the main characters, including lovely Black Arachnia there with her web, which also came with tarantulas. These are fantastic figures and look really good together displayed. They scale very well. It's just a shame they became quite expensive to get hold of on the aftermarket, but really cool figures to have nonetheless. A fantastic showing from Bisto and a good way to start the video. Next up to showcase his collection is Chandler from the TFYTC, and I can see a little IKEA Detolf up in the corner. That's the first sighting of a Detolf in this video. But look at that collection over there. A lovely mix of Generations figures as well as some brilliant and often really ignored Unicron Trilogy figures. They do look really lovely together. And there's that, I can see the fantastic Armada Optimus Prime combined. It's a really lovely figure that is, but it's nice to see a mix of collections in there as well. See what you can spot in this photo. And the second Beast Wars display in this video, and it is all of the Kingdom figures that had been released up until that point. And this is a wonderful display showcasing all the Beast Wars figures in their beast modes. Very nicely done. I do love how there's just been some simple effects used, such as the cardboard there and the polystyrene, just to support those clear action figure stands. Very clever indeed. And then we're seeing a bit more of Chandler's collection here in this video, and I do love the fact that he has a couple of seats so he can just sit and marvel at the collection, and who could blame him, because there's so much there to just look at and behold. Next we have George Huckvale's collection, and there's so much going on in this one picture that he posted. We've got a Prime shelf there, and then just behind it we've got such a mix of all different Transformers from all different styles. The majority of it is Generations, but I can see some Prime in there. There's even some Generation 1 if you really have a good look into this, as well as a little Simpsons diorama thing, I believe. When people do see this, all they maybe see is a mess, but I like this type of way people display their collection, because you're always going to find something new when you initially look at that. You could look at that for a few hours and discover something that you missed. I think it's always a very cool way to display your collection. And here is Jared Barry's collection. And of course, we're seeing some more IKEA Detolfs here. All Generation 1 in these IKEA cabinets, and that's a sight to behold. So much goodness going on. And I tell a lie when I say it's all Generation 1, because you will see an Armada Unicron mould in that display. But it's fantastic just to look at. Nice, well preserved bit of history there. There we can see Brave Maximus along with a mix of MP figures. It's really cool, again in the Detolf cabinets. And we have another Fortress Maximus, the original Generation 1 version, along with a mix of Masterpiece and other Transformers, and a fine collection of DVDs as well. Jared Bernard's collection. Next, and this is a wide shot of his room, and there's so much going on here. And it's amazing to see. It's all color coded as well, which is pretty cool when it comes to the shelves designs, that is. The first picture is, of course, the Transformers part of the collection, and it's mostly Generations that are displayed here, but I can see some Armada and Unicron Trilogy figures as well. Very cool. The second picture, again, shows off some of those Transformers Generations figures, but also another shelf with a different variety of figure collecting, such as the Technodrome Cubics, as well as some Beast Wars figures, plus some other Transformers to boot. And this is the non-Transformer part of Jared's collection, and it's nice to see that, you know, people do have a lot of variety when it comes to collecting these days. It's not solely just Transformers. We've got a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles going on here, especially the giant ones on the very top of the display, including Bebop there, the sewer playset, and just a lot of turtle action figures. Very nicely done. And then lastly, it's just more of a wider shot there to see more of the collection from a different angle. And again, I think it all works very well. Just having the shelves that same colour really does help the uniformity of the collection itself. This picture comes from Julio, and the first thing you're going to notice when you look at this picture is that everything is colour coded. Sure, the majority of the figures in this collection are the same character, but just different designs. But this is very impressive to see. And the white background with the white shelving just makes all those colours pop so well. This is a very clever and unique way of displaying your Transformers. Next up is Lee Hancock's collection, and we can see he has went for those fantastic white LEDs which work with the white shelving. I do love the shadows it's giving off on the displays. And in terms of the figures on display, again, we're seeing a lot of Generations figures here in this video. Not that there's anything wrong with that, that's definitely my jam. You can also see a couple of box crossover figures, as well as a Ultra Magnus in the corner with that classic Xbox 360. Getting a different angle for that display there, and again, it just looks really cool and works dead well. Showing off the posters that Lee has, which is very nice and fantastic artwork, and of course the classic Transformers the movie poster, all lovely and framed, and making sure that no space is left out. We've got some Beast Wars figures just above the door. Very nice. And lastly, it is a smaller shop, but we can see some Funko Pops there, and most importantly, I can see a Masterpiece Ultra Magnus. Very impressive shop, and that does look like an IKEA Detolf. And the last person on this video is Marcin. Now, I could be butchering that pronunciation, but just go with me. Hey, I'm Scottish. This is a mixed bag of Generation 1/Generation 2 figures, all carded, as well as the Transformers Takara collection. There's a little bit of third party in there as well. It's nice to see. A lot of people don't, really see the point of collecting figures on card, but there's something about that era of box art that I love so much, and it's nice to see that preserved. It's a very cool looking display from Marcin.